You're like a circle that floats around me, keeping me safe and sound. And when I fall, you've tied a rope to me. You're blessing me every day.
So Ben, look, we've had a bit of a conversation previously, and I'm hoping I can keep it on track actually, because there's so much I'd love to actually ask you. And we've had a number of meetings about other things that have turned into meetings about whatever we find ourselves talking about. Look, just to kick us off, can you just tell us, I guess, who you are and what is your relationship to the finance community?
Sure. Look, I'm originally from Toronto, Canada. I've been in Australia for about 15 years, and I've spent about 25 years in digital advertising and marketing, mostly through specialist digital agencies and as head of digital for some of the large multinationals like Clevenger BBDO. Most of my clients, I facilitate consumer-centric design. So what that means in plain English is that I design solutions for businesses to solve their problems, interfacing with consumers and back-end systems through technology. And my teaching has been largely around in the master's program at Swinburne, teaching around social media analytics and social media management.
Yeah, brilliant. Because my next question was, and I know it's a bit of a cheeky one, but what's your qualifications or experience to be able to talk to this topic today?
Well, look, largely because of my experience across a wide variety of industries through the advertising space, I recognize that digital can play a role in pretty much any industry. And my frustrations in applying for a mortgage specifically led me down the path of creating a solution that would facilitate a lot of the issues or address a lot of the issues that consumers have in negotiating the finance space specifically. I have had a lot of experience in the finance space going back about 20 years when I started doing some consulting work for GE Money. Right. But my experience primarily is in the technology space and in the data space specifically. So, understanding how to leverage technology solutions and build solutions for consumers, in this case, by addressing a large broker problem, is what led me to starting Dinero.
Yeah, brilliant. And I guess, and I know a little bit about, I guess, some of your beliefs of where things could go, what could happen, but I guess for the rest of the room, I'd love to hear just your take on where all this could go and where we could end up. And look, you're allowed to be wrong. It's great to speculate about some of these things, but I'd love to, I guess, hear from you what you see the future looking like, especially in our industry.
Sure. Look, I think speculation is exactly what it largely is. I would say that as we continue to move forward, the native digital, so the people who have grown up with digital surrounding their lives, is becoming more and more of a mainstay, and technology solutions being used by a variety of industries to interface between their industry and the consumers is an inevitability. Where I have frustration is around the artificial intelligence solutions that remove the human equation. I've been a strong advocate for consumer-centric design, which means building systems around the consumer that help them achieve their goals. And I don't believe that an AI solution is necessarily going to be of benefit to consumers, largely because their financial literacy just doesn't stack up to a professional. They have other things in their lives that they're focusing on, and the advocacy of a professional to negotiate that lending space is always going to be better for that consumer. AI lacks the context. But that being said, I suspect that the future of digital involvement in the lending community is by building systems that help bridge the gap between consumers and brokers, and to streamline the process, to make the process simpler. And I think open banking is an attempt at starting that. Open banking largely gives the big banks an advantage. And I think the move that the government has recently announced about opening up discussions on open finance, I think is the right path because
So
it
open
levels the
finance,
playing field.
yeah, so open finance is not just the banks getting access to that data, but anyone. Is that
Anyone
right?
in the financial space, yeah, exactly. So that, you know, open banking largely excludes superannuation or insurance providers. It's specifically dealing with the banking and lending space specifically. But there's a whole ecosystem of players in the finance space, and I think open finance opens up that capability. The barrier for a lot of these companies is simply the overhead cost of infrastructure and regulatory approval in all of their systems in order to leverage the open banking framework.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was in a room where a conversation was being had recently where they're talking about the rise of digital banks. One of the comments was, well, all banks will eventually be digital. And I believed it for about 10 seconds. Then I remembered my time working at some of the large banks and their inability to cut red tape and get things done. It was quite I'm like, it will, I think it's a little bit further off than what we might think. But it's just a question around the open banking piece. I know we didn't plan to have this conversation, but I think it's of interest. Is with banks having access to all this data, at first we may think that's a good thing, because then we don't, as brokers, have to provide all the I guess the proof or the evidence of that data. But also, my concern is it also then takes out of our hands the ability to actually present a good story and put context to the data. And you made mention of that a little bit around part of your concern with AI is it able to give context to that data? Can you just expound on that a little bit more around where businesses can run into trouble by just relying on, I guess, just straight data or AI?
Well, look, I think you know, the traditional lending institutions are largely conservative in the way that they treat borrowers, and that the online lenders tend to give a little bit more flexibility, and they do so by looking at the context of a consumer's financial situation as well as other key factors. You know, those just the way that banks, for example, treat sole traders. Obviously, being a sole trader, I have you know, a bit of a bias, but you know, a small business and sole tradership constitutes such an extensive percentage of the market, the business market, and to not allow or to treat sole traders with a little bit more disdain in the borrowing process, and I use that word carefully. It's by opening up the financial system to alternate vendors, to alternate lenders, it gives a little bit more of a level playing field to all people. And I think that's part of it. I mean, the Australian dream is largely built around home ownership, and to provide solutions that allow people from across the spectrum to be able to borrow and own a home is the ultimate goal that we're trying to achieve. AI is not going to take them into consideration, and neither are banks. So having a large variety of different lending options is the ultimate solution. And a broker, in large part, will be able to tell that story of that family or that individual or that young couple, and be able to assess their specific needs, both for now and for their long-term future, and provide solutions to best suit their needs.
Well, I guess that's the challenge as a broker, or the skill set that you develop is the ability to understand what the customer actually values.
Yes.
You know, I remember, just a quick story, had a couple in front of me once when I was a lender, and her father had left her a property that she didn't want to sell, or in order to purchase their brand new home that they wanted. And the husband's like, well, why can't you just sell the property? Well, the value of that property to her was a lot more than, I guess, how much it was worth according to evaluation. So it's being, those nuances is where human interaction is important. That's why I believe that any digital offering in market, it will be competitive, but digital plus broker will always provide a far better experience for the customer.
Yeah, and I think it'll also open up our borders a little bit more. So
Right.
for example, I own property in Canada, but I can't leverage that property here. Banks obviously don't want to chase down international or delinquencies if that ever was to happen.
Sure.
But through open banking, that opportunity to leverage, foreign property ownership, foreign businesses, foreign income sources, will help make lending a little bit more accessible, assuming that the framework, is adjusted accordingly.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. Look, and I guess the topic we're discussing right now is, I guess the future of customer relationships. Can you just tell me a little bit more about, I guess, what you're working on right now? What's grabbed your interest? What's some of the solutions that you see to, I guess, some of the challenges between bridging the gap between, I guess, a digital world, brokers and their customers?
Well, look, I think that the lending space, a lot of the systems are largely to assist the broker in assessing customers' viability and completing a loan application. I think what often happens is that that vision is often quite narrow. A lot of people tend to forget the customer at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And the customer problem really, in a large part, especially with onboarding and when it comes to long-term customer retention, is around the acquisition of consumer financial data. That most consumers will take weeks to supply or collect and supply data. And in this day and age, I found that it kind of blew my mind a little bit. And in large part, that's what Dinero tends to facilitate, is the centralization of all financial data, the ability for a consumer to find a broker in their local area or even a national provider, and the ability in one click to be able to share their finances with that financial service provider, either advisor or broker. In the long term, what we are intending to build is notification tools that give brokers access to critical information on changes to a customer's financial status.
Right.
For example, if you've completed a mortgage for a customer, then when is it time for their renewal period? What changes are, for example, if they're going to save for an income property, what kind of equity have they developed in that property, and how can you leverage it to get them into another property? If we can help automate by delivery of emails to the broker to give them the access to the information in a proactive fashion, then they can engage their customer, build a stronger relationship, so they don't have to worry about that leakage that happens every year. About $88 million in commissions are up for grabs every year, which is an amazing number. But it also helps the customer build not just one single asset for their retirement, but helps to build a portfolio for their retirement and helps the broker maximize that relationship.
Well, look, I think most brokers are in a position where they want to have that whole life journey with that customer. It's not about just doing a single transaction. It's about looking after them and their family and their friends for life. And anything that helps facilitate that, especially in a smart way. Look, a lot of, I know the business that I work in currently, we have some smart tech in regards to, we've worked out when to send a particular communication to hopefully get a response, but it's still guesswork. It's not based on true data where, like for me, I'm thinking like you've got data out there that knows exactly what the value of a property is. You've got data that knows exactly how much someone owes on their property or on their home loan. You know exactly how much they have in savings. If there's specific goals that you've spoken about with that customer initially that they want to achieve, and as soon as the data points line up, you get notified to give them a call or reach out. That is a very powerful tool, which ultimately, and this is that you mentioned it already, actually helps the customer. It's about the customer, not just the lending process. Where I kind of feel a lot of the tech that I'm seeing coming out within our industry is really about trying to streamline the process between bank and broker, and not necessarily between just broker and customer. So that's brilliant. Look, we do have to keep going, or otherwise, as I said, we could talk all day. But look, Ben will be hanging around towards the end to answer some questions as well. And I'm sure that we'll pass on your details to everyone. And Ben also does some great stuff online as well. I joined his, he had his own webinar recently around social media and data, which was pretty incredible. So I'll definitely encourage anyone to follow Ben and get in contact with him.
You're like a circle that floats around me, keeping me safe.
Welcome to our second topic today on the Online Think Tank, where we're looking at the digital broker. The topic of conversation for this session will be the future of lender relationships. And I have with me Brodie, the founder of Wlth, which is WLTH. I don't know why people don't know how to spell anymore, Brodie, but it's a cool way to do things. But look, I'd love for you just, I guess, quickly introduce yourselves. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're doing right now.
Yeah, firstly, thanks for having me on, Andrew. Mate, you nailed it. Wlth. You'd be surprised at how many people actually pronounce it Wolf or Wolf. So, mate, kudos to you for understanding how to say the name. It's quite funny, actually. So, yeah, introduce myself. I'm Brodie Happ, CEO of Wlth. We're a digital lending and payments fintech with a broker-first mentality. So, yeah, really, really happy to be here today.
Yeah, brilliant. And look, maybe just some background of, I guess, what's led up to you being where you're at right now. So maybe tell us a little bit about your experience, I guess your qualifications or authority to speak on digital matters. And I also believe that you were a mortgage broker or own a mortgage broking business as well. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. So about 10 years ago, myself and my brother, who's one of the co-founders of Wlth, Drew, set up a property advisory business called Inception Wealth Group, which is still operational today. I don't work in it, thank God. We've got a really good team, so they op it, and I get about one hour a week of management reporting. And throughout that process, you know, we used to outsource finance and wanted to really have control, I suppose, of the end-to-end customer experience. So quickly realized we needed to launch being brokers as well. So within 12 to 18 months of launching Inception Wealth Group, we launched Inception Finance, which is still operational today and quite a successful brokerage in its own right. And really what gives me the authority, I suppose, to speak on this matter is just understanding the pain points that we still face today as brokers in the industry and taking that lens towards how to build a lender for the future to be able to support brokers long term.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. Look, one of the things that we're talking about today is trying to look ahead at potential disruption to our industry by digital. Do you have a belief around, I guess, what that looks like or what we should be considering or looking out for?
Yeah, absolutely. Number one for us is just really understanding the market. What we feel typically has happened in the space, particularly over the last 5 years, as we've seen a lot of this, digital disruption or evolution of the neobanks coming into the Australian market, is they've really ignored the broker sector, which is the dominant force in home loan lending, particularly in our market. So that's really where we've tried to shape our business model towards. And just speaking openly of what we feel brokers want out there is an end-to-end digital experience, but a real end-to-end digital experience. Yeah, so sure. The ability for them to capture their data in whatever system they please and not being told or made to use different application tools. And for us to be able to help integrate, pull that data and have that full, one entry point system all the way through to settlement, rather than having to input data on multiple systems and, run a clunky process, which at the end of the day, what that does is just, it slows down time. So that's the first component. Secondly is to, solve for the broker market, decision engine lending, so instant approval. So that's what we've been spending a hell of a lot of money, resource, energy, and time on getting it right. So, we've built a broker portal which supports brokers for them to do digital onboarding accreditation, which, simple tick. Servicing calculators online and web-based. So we're not doing clunky old Excel spreadsheets that don't work on Mac, and we're Mac enabled in our business. So it's always been a pain point of mine. Enable those goddamn macros. So, for us, just taking the simple, easy wins first. And then we've got a really strong vision for what we think will help succeed in terms of, for us as a lender, but also partnering with brokers to have that longevity in terms of the approach of helping them uplift their business and their customer experience for their clients. Because Our clients are their clients. So we need to work together and collaborate on the best outcome for that long term. What that looks like for us is the ability to have, and we've chosen our servicing calculators to be the entry point for our decision engine lending. So we have one product in market, our SMSF Rapid Refi product, which is an end-to-end decision engine loan. So you put all your details into the servicing calc in the broker portal, that then pushes through, retrieves an AVM if it's under 80% LVR, and pushes you back a conditional approval before you even have an application signed from your customer or your client. So you can show them the savings that would be within that product, how much time it's going to save them off the life of the loan. It becomes a really easy proposition. So when we think about digital disruption or digital enablement, we think it's a tool that is coupled with the human experience. It's never a replacement tool for human interaction of the broker. The broker has a relationship. You have the relationship with the client. What we need to do is to create an enablement tool, an enablement product that gives you the ability as a broker to scale your business. So further steps to that is we're also building out a broker CMS. So within the broker portal, you'll be able to see a list of all of your loans. We're the first lender in Australia that will be able to integrate directly with our settlement solicitor, who is Cadence, bring an API in so we can show real time where that loan is up to within our system. So you're not having to call your BDM, you're not having to call our broker network executives and chase up, our credit team or customer service team to find out where the loans are, where the docs are at. It'll all be there displayed in the broker portal. So it'll give you nice real-time transparency. The final piece, which has really been through ideation of receiving feedback from the broker sector since we launched to brokers in the end of November, was understanding the pain points around commission management and administration of managing your business. So every broker is different. So some broker groups will have, their loan writers under PAYG, some will do upfront splits, trail splits. And we don't think that we should have to dictate as a lender how that process looks. I know within our business, we had to set up our own proprietary spreadsheets to be able to cross-check and manage commissions coming in from, a multitude of different lenders. And it is really, really painful and probably the most boring part of your business. But what it does, it keeps you inside of the business rather than you working on the business. So we're looking at some really cool ideas of where we can bring in not only your commission statements to sit in the broker portal, but also looking at doing things like mapping that commission experience for you on the front end, integrating with your accounting platform or with your database, and enabling things like pass-through payments. Because we are a payments-based fintech as well, we should be able to grab your commission statement, say, who do you want to split to? What's the hierarchy of your business? We'll pay the business itself. We'll pay your loan writers. Is there a commission split that goes to your loan processors? Do you have to pay a referral fee to a real estate agent or financial planner, whoever it might be? And we can actually handle all that for you rather than you having to take one lump sum to your business and then have to do all that yourself. So just about trying to bridge that gap so we can have a faster experience across every pain point that exists in Brokerland.
It's absolutely fascinating. Look, you covered off a fair few points there. I do know, I guess prior to running this session, I ran a poll on our closed Facebook group around what aspects of, I guess, a digital experience or digital disruption are you actually looking forward to? And the overwhelming response was that ability to go direct to a lender, have direct credit decisioning, like that piece. But look, I hadn't even considered, I guess, some of the other pain points that we do face. And look, one of the good things about, I guess, this platform is this platform's owned by myself. So I'm not representing a particular aggregator or lender or even a particular brokerage, although of course I do work for Nectar Mortgages, and look, they do, I guess, support me in doing this. But it allows me to say things like, I think, some of these pain points used to be, or the solution to the pain points used to be owned by the aggregator, where we've starting to see more and more where aggregators are becoming so large, and even from a profitability perspective for an aggregator, the margins are becoming so small that I don't think we're seeing some of the investment that we would want. And there is some exceptions to the rules, where there's some great work being done on a number of CRM systems at the moment. But talking about commissions, and look, one of my former roles was with an aggregator overseeing part of that process. It can be an absolute nightmare in getting that right. And it's something that's very, very important to brokers, is that they get paid and that payment process is simple and easy. So look, I think any work that you can do, and I just wasn't expecting to come from a lender, I guess to support that is fantastic. What other things are you working on at the moment? What about, where do you see the future of wealth going? Look, my automatic question to you, and I know we didn't prepare for this, but I'm sure you have an answer. I was a big fan of 86400. I thought they were doing a great job, and then having them purchased by NAB and moving behind what I say is the NAB firewall, where not much gets through or past. It kind of was a little bit disheartening to see that tech eaten up by one of the big players with deep pockets. How do you think you can remain, I guess, relevant, or what is your value system as a business around being broker first, or really maintaining that ability to be innovative and constantly come up with ideas that, I guess, solve solutions for brokers?
There's so many levels to that and layers to that question.
Yeah, there is.
I really appreciate it. So yeah, first I'll talk to 86400. For me, it's disappointing because it removes competition out of the space, which might sound a little bit counterintuitive. But we're all working towards the same thing, right? We're trying to help support and recreate, and I hate using the word innovate, but innovate a space, right? To make it a better experience for everyone involved. And I think over the last sort of 5 to 10 years, a lot of people were scared about digital disruption or digital enablement, thinking that it would get rid of jobs. Now, in some cases, it may enable you to remove a component of a task, but we still need that human interaction on the front end with the customer. What we're doing in terms of longevity is, first of all, our approach to ownership doesn't involve us selling out to a bank. That's, I can, hand on heart say that, with full confidence. That's not part of our roadmap at all. We're looking to actually go over into other territories over the next few years as well. So head into different international markets. And we've got really good support from our investor base to realize that vision. When we talk about vision, or talk about what is our why, we made the decision really early on to choose to have purpose and impact at the core of our DNA as a business. So right now, for every loan that we settle, we contribute in collaboration with our partnership for Parlay for the Oceans, the ability for them to clean up 50 square meters of Australian coastline and beaches. So our cards, which will be launched in April, these cards here, which will be mortgage offset linked, are made of recycled ocean plastic that we actually help Parlay clean up, get sent back to their facility. And then in collaboration with Giuseppe and Deveron, our card manufacturer, we have that in place. Now that whole ideation process to get to where we've now got test cards right here has taken 18 months. And it's about us being stubborn on our approach and our vision. And we wanted to have an experience where end to end, and challenge some of the major players to have an end-to-end packaging, material, glue polymers in the envelope, be completely eco-friendly. So we'll be the first Australian card provider that brings that to market with recycled ocean plastic cards. Now, that is a symbol. Obviously, being card-free would be better, so there's less plastic in the environment. But what it is about for us is about awareness. And it's about sharing that awareness in a way where we can promote and push some of the other lenders and banks to start thinking about more than just, let's face it, greenwashing. That metric for us is quite expensive. So it's about $1 per square meter that we're cleaning up, US. So it's 50 US that we actually contribute to Parlay for that particular metric. Now, that's no small component to what we're doing. We're working in a small margin sector and space, as you sort of pointed out before. But we think it's our responsibility really to be doing that in the space. Now, we're building into the broker portal the ability for brokers to be able to share in the impact that they create based on the amount of customers they put into wealth loans as well, and be able to reutilize that for marketing purposes. So create like what's called a CSR and a box initiative to get network driven sustainability impact happening, through our broker network and also through our customer base end to end as well. So we're super excited by that. What we're looking to do to help support brokers as well is to rethink the way that things like PD days are done or conferences are done. So yeah, sure, we would love to, we'll probably try and go up to Hamilton Island later this year and bring up our broker groups that we're working with, but it's also about explaining to them who Wealth is, what we represent as an organization, and explain to them why we've chosen to partner with Parlay for the Oceans. Because it seems weird, right? Why would a fintech partner with a environmentalist organization that is trying to remove plastic pollution from the oceans? And our answer to that is simple. It's about trying to create a platform for us to all share in the problem and create awareness about it, but also for our brokers and the businesses that we work with to also share in that opportunity. We are the first non-multinational organization to partner with Parlay for the Ocean. So for those of you that haven't heard of them, all Adidas shoes now have an element of Parlay recycled ocean plastic in the shoe, in the production of the shoes and production of the apparel. They've done some major marketing with Corona as well as a partner. And the CEO of Parlay for the Ocean, Cyril Gooch, speaks to the UN, etc. So they're quite well known in international circles in that space.
Yeah, look, I think they're a fantastic organisation, and one of the few who, I'm a skeptic with most, I guess, charities or not-for-profits due to my background working with many of them. They're one of the few that are quite effective in the work they do. Genuinely makes a direct impact on the environment. Which I think is fantastic. Look, just I guess a point again. I know I'm going off on a tangent regarding what we said we're going to talk about, but I think you've just nailed something that I think is very important. We've had some discussions on our think tanks previously. Like this topic, you've been talking about digital natives, or I guess the future of what broking looks like. And if you think of that age group of under 25s who really fit into that being a digital native, it's not only a digital experience that they want, first of all, I believe that digital plus broker beats digital on its own every day of the week, and I think that is the hope of the team. And it's great that you've presented how your business is doing that well. But the other aspect to that age group is they no longer have the same trust in larger brands that previous generations had. And if you think of the institutions that are struggling right now, like religious institutions, political parties, the big banks, etc., that generation really wants to know who is behind the brand and what are they about, and can I trust them? Do I like them? Are they approachable? Is there a shared value in that? And I think it's important, just like I think you have with your business. I think as an industry, we need to start considering not just do we have great products and do we have great tech, but do our clients have accessibility to who we are, and also are we able to collaborate with them or invite them in on the bigger purpose of why we exist. And it's not so much just to push out products or to sell, but most brokers I know became a broker because they wanted to contribute to their community. They either stuck at a bank where they felt they were just selling a single product, or they had an experience with a broker or a bank and they thought, well, we can do better than this, and so they take that step out. And we are a community of mostly small businesses who wanted to make a difference to the people in our local communities and in our network. And I think as an industry, as we start to mature in our professionalism, in our tech offering or our digital offering, I think there's a real opportunity for us to start really pushing the point of your mortgage broker is not just here to give you a product, but there's a genuine purpose or why we exist behind that, and collaborating with our customers on some of those bigger goals that we can achieve together. Look, and I love that. Look, this online think tank is exactly exists for that reason is I'm a big believer that you put a group of people in a room and you collaborate, and together you can achieve far more influence than any one person can on their own. So pooling of resources and thoughts and ideas, and what comes out of that is better solutions that independently have a better impact on each individual than what any one person could have on their own. So look, I really, that just really vibes with me, the way that I guess you've gone about that in setting up your business to be more than just a service provider, but have I guess a bigger cause that we're lucky that we've been invited into to join in with. So well done, and thank you. Look, just before we go, is there any, I guess, final thoughts, or if anyone did want to reach out to yourself or your team, how would they go about that?
Yeah, sure. If you want to reach out, you can just head to wlth.com and go to a broker inquiries, and then we can set you up with a broker code on the broker portal, and you can meet the rest of the team and start the onboarding experience. So first and foremost, that would be lovely. We welcome to speak to new brokers. A final point I'd like to leave you with as well is, while we think we've got a pretty robust and well-tested business model that is supporting brokers, we don't have all the answers, and we'll continue to adapt and evolve the business model to be more supportive of brokers. And how we anticipate to do that is by creating a feedback loop. Getting feedback from the broker network, from the brokers who are running business, saying, what can we be better at? How can we improve? And this might sound a little bit controversial, but I feel personally that there's going to be a lot of change happening in the broker sector, particularly over the next few years as interest rates start to rise. I feel like, we haven't really experienced that for a long time now, that upward pressure. Now, if that upward pressure should potentially change the way that we do business as brokers, from constantly writing and rewriting business. So constantly writing and then rewriting and then getting an upfront, we all know it. It's the elephant in the room. Yeah. What we're trying to do with digital enablement is to increase the CLV, the customer lifetime value of the loan. So, rather than being always so definitively rate conscious for our customers, which is great, obviously best interest duty, etc. We're trying to create a customer portal, a single entry point where they can have a really strong digital experience to interact with online. It's super simple for them to transact. They can get cards, PayWave, all the bells and whistles that go with a neobank style offering, Apple Pay, Garmin Pay, all those sorts of things. But also to buy in and be proud of the organization that they've partnered with. Yeah. And I think there's a real nice synergy there that if we get this right with the broker market, we can dominate. And it really just becomes about dropping your ego and understanding what people want, what the brokers want, but also brokers understanding and listening to their customers and obtaining feedback about the experience that way. So, yeah, we welcome it.
Yeah, brilliant. Very well said. Very well said. It's interesting. We didn't really have a chance to talk much before this, but obviously on the recommendation of a friend of mine who said you really need to have a chat to Brody. I understand why. There's a lot of synergies there, and I think this is a perfect conversation for this platform around, really looking ahead to where I guess the future is going, and creating awareness around, what the future of mortgage broking looks like, but specifically what's the future of lenders look like too, and to take it right back to what I think is the most important thing is, we need to make sure that we're listening to our customers. Disruption doesn't come through technology. Disruption comes by a change in human behavior. And you made a really valid point there, where I think going into a higher interest rate cycle, we are going to see a change in human behavior. We don't quite know what that's going to look like yet, but there's going to be things that are going to pop up that we haven't had to deal with ever, or not for a long time. And I think in response to that, we need to be listening more than we have ever been to our customers to find out what they want. And I think, you and your business is very, very well positioned to play a significant role in that. And I look forward to supporting you. And I'm sure that other people out there who are listening right now will also, reach out at some stage and engage And I do believe that one of your staff members will be staying around to answer some questions at the end too, which is fantastic. But look, thank you so much for your time, Brodie. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I look forward to talking to you again at some other point.
Absolutely. Really appreciate having me, Andrew. Thanks very much, guys. Appreciate listening.
You're like a circle that floats around me, keeping me safe.
Once again, thank you for joining us, and thank you for going last. It's always a little bit harder to go last after everybody's mind is already full. But I do think, I guess, what you're working in and what you're doing right now and building is vitally important to the future of the industry and where we're heading. But before we get into it, are you able to just quickly tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you're doing, I guess, and how did you end up in a digital business?
Thanks for that, Andrew. So I'd hate to say this, but I'm about 20 years of history of encapsulating all banking and financial services. So I hate to say that because it keeps reminding me that I'm getting older, not necessarily wiser, but older. But look, I think I've had a wonderful journey with my background. I've played in personal lending, commercial lending and strategy, and building out new strategy markets for banks and businesses. I guess I won't bore you with my CV on. Check me out on LinkedIn if you guys want to engage. But I guess I am qualified to speak in the broker space and the banking space. It's not because of just 20 years. I've been in the roles. So I've been broker, banker, media advisor, advertiser, banker, broker, and now a fintecher, I think. But I think they call them finnies, I think. But I think about, I suppose, what is the next tranche of need in our industry? And the thing here is that I think about the industry that I love, which is banking and third party. And look, I've paid a third party as a broker and a banker, and I helped NAB build out their commercial broker strategy back in the olden days. So, I'm very in touch with it, and being part of NAB, Plan, Choice and Advice was part of our blood as well. So when I thought about adding value to the industry, it's like, what is it that the industry is missing? And when you're looking at the industry of 16,500 brokers, what's the next evolution of that? And I guess I'm very interested in the fact that we're talking about the digital broker today. So what does the digital broker today look like? It's about I believe it's a bit of an industry disruptor. I believe that consumers are wanting a faster paced engagement with brokers and lenders. And they're also putting more trust in the online solution, and that's evolving, right? So particularly in the next generation as well, where there's not a lot of brand loyalty. In reality, people are so desperate to get into the housing market, and they want to borrow for their first home. So it doesn't really matter if it has a nice brand to it. It's the fact that it has to carry and tick a lot of boxes for their personal needs. So I suppose that creates a bit of a profile for the online customer. And what does that mean for the broker industry? So I guess, we're moving from, rather than a feet shopping situation where traditionally, consumers will, go from one office to the other and hear what they want to hear. And now they prefer to click and receive, right? So, yeah. And what that means is that, but they still want the warmness of the relationship management piece as well. And I think that's where brokers go really well, because, at the end of the day, brokers are 24/7. It's their business. So therefore, the customer piece is so valuable to them because they believe in investing in relationship in that journey.
It's just a question off the back of that, because now you're talking about this digital native customer, and I guess there's almost a profile of what that person looks like. The person who wants to go direct, they want to click a button somewhere, they want that quick service. I guess as a broker, where you're sitting in maybe an office or in your house, or you're in a retail space somewhere, how do you find that person?
Well,
where are they?
Yeah, so a lot of us aren't very good at finding that person. And I think that's a very good question, because we've all, as brokers and business owners, delved into our own marketing and trying marketing ourselves, signing up, partners, or going out there and actually doing it ourselves, which we're not good at. So the thing here is that, you know, they're just like the mixed world of banking, where there's so many sectors and so many products and services out there. You know, media and marketing is a totally different ecosystem and a different planet in my world. So, you know, I think, you know, we kind of need to then, you know, I think as brokers, we need to trust what we're good at, but also trust finding the right sources to find the right customers for us. And the customer ecosystem now is that, yes, they're online, they have a certain profile, but not every profile is the same, right? So that's the reason why we have different tiers of lenders. We have different tiers of brokers specializing in different fields. And then it goes back to the fact that if I'm an old-fashioned broker, so I represent broker when broker industry was worth 6% in the marketplace. So, and now we're over 60% in the marketplace. So that's a pretty cool thing to live through. I feel like a bit of a dinosaur, but it gives me a bit of perspective on where we need to start thinking as customer acquisition in our broker businesses. So, you know, there's over 16,000 brokers out there in the marketplace. And the other thing is that the traditional referral sources are your, you know, accountants, solicitors and lawyers and real estate agents and all of that. When there's 16 and plus thousand brokers in the marketplace, plus lenders knocking on those guys' doors and asking for the same kind of profile customers, where do you go? And in reality, it relates back to the digital world. So we know that consumers are now changing their behavior, they're clicking and wanting, and then it's becoming a bit more of a fulfillment answer to the consumers online. So I guess, you know, digital services has become quite apparent, particularly in COVID lockdowns. People are liking the results of that. And that's not only from a consumer side, that's also from a business side. And going back to your question, Andrew, about, you know, if I'm a broker sitting in the middle of nowhere or working from home, how do I go out and find those customers, right? I need to start engaging on the digital platforms that are available to me. But at the same time, understanding the nature of that consumer on that platform, that they're not the ones that, you know, that will come to your door and sit in your office for 20 minutes and give and listen to your pitch. You also need to, you know, critique what your online pitch is, critique what your phone pitch is, and I suppose provide a unique selling point to who you are. But the added value of, I suppose, the digital side is that the consumer is shopping online, they're sitting in the comfort of their own home, and they are more advocates of brokers these days as well.
Yes.
So the thing here is with brokers, we tend to forget that we do have other sort of resources out there to help us grow our customer base. But at the same time, I find a lot of our brokers actually find that you know, the opportunity is not just working within the space and the territory that they're in. They're not limiting themselves to that anymore. They're actually opening themselves as a national business.
Yeah. Well, and that's something I find quite fascinating as a major change I've seen possibly in the last 2 years, is one with the rise of or the enlarging of the slice of the pie that brokers take. No longer is just lenders or going direct our competitors. Our competitors is other brokers. And then the rise of, we talk a lot about social media, but one thing we don't talk enough about is online marketplaces. So where people go to buy. And you know, traditionally Australians were a little bit lagging in that space behind other international markets. Although we would use it when we go overseas, but when we come home, we want to go back to face-to-face. But you know, during the pandemic and being in lockdown, it's kind of changed our behavior, where people have embraced digital marketplaces, places where I go to shop. And you know, with that, and I understand that Joust kind of sits in that space too. Like, there's people no longer just go to the accountant, the financial advisor for advice. Where do people go to get educated, to find things out, to you know, and look, and there's an element of that where social media plays a part with social media influencers, as in, who do I follow, who do I trust? That's a big change, and I think, you know, one of the challenges for brokers now is the fact that, you know, it used to be who's on their street, who goes to their local pub, who's a part of their golf club, where now you know, your customer could be anywhere within Australia, and how do you reach them? And I think, you know, that's probably something which that Joust is working on at the moment. So tell us a little bit about, I guess, what Joust is working on at the moment to kind of create these opportunities for brokers in this space.
And why should you limit yourself to just the office that you sit in? You know, I think there's benefits of scaling your business to be a national brand, and you don't necessarily have to have an office and bums on seats these days. It's the fact that having a national-based business, it actually also encourages you to learn as a broker business as well. What's happening in other states? You know, we talk about two-speed economies, which are the states that are more popular and more volume pumped out, and where are the areas of opportunity that you could hunt in that you don't need to necessarily compete in with the volume of other brokers or lenders in the marketplace. And I think, look, Joust is a very good example of this, because we see this as a platform where we bring both lenders and brokers on an equal playing field. And what that means is that then it also endorses and creates an environment where it's about buyer's choice. I think going back to what you said, Andrew, is that, you know, customers, you know, previously, you know, have heard on the grapevine who they need to go to their home with their home loan, and not necessarily really understanding what that service offer proposition looks like. And at the same time, not being able to get a really good snapshot of what the market looks like as well. So with us, we're a marketplace. So the thing here is that you've got the consumer coming into our platform who are wanting a solution to their home loan questions, and at the same time, they want to buy that home, or they want to refi, or they want to build, or they're sole traders that are finding a need for their personal situation because they've got different lending needs. So we've got a mixture of consumers on our platform, and then we've got also a mixture of partners, such as our broker partners on our platforms, that can provide them with many layers of solutions. And I love the broker space, because you can't just talk about one or two products anymore. You are armed with 40, 50 different products that your aggregator gives you to go and play in the marketplace. And I guess when we created these platforms, I've got 2 platforms, by the way, but when we created this platform, it's about buyer's choice, and at the same time connecting the right brokers with the right consumers, and not necessarily giving the brokers an opportunity to not get lost in the ecosystem of what digital online looks like as well. So how often do you open up a tab about researching about, let's say, home loan, for example, but if you wanted to find out about something that you wanted to buy or engage in, how many times do you have 20 tabs open and you get lost in the tabs, and then you just give up? So the platform that we've created is, it creates an environment where you don't need to shop anywhere, because you know that the best offers will be presented to you at the table. And it provides an opportunity for brokers to also see what their competitors are doing. But when you talk about the broker community, the reason why I actually love the third-party space so much is that I always believe that you create a community and then you create a movement, right? And the movement is in the fact that we are providing consumer choice. And the Joust platform is created around that, whether it be on the live auction platform, where they put their mortgage onto an auction platform where lenders and brokers bid on it, and you get to see what's happening in the marketplace, or they actually want to be instantly engaged. So that, and the thing here is that what is the most disruptive part of Joust is that we talk about data points. So I always talk about the fact that the data points drive consumers to brokers and brokers to consumers. And the smart brokers would always not ask for the vanilla type of customers, because it's becoming increasingly hard to find what vanilla is in this world, right? So I believe that the platform that we've created creates a balance in the universe of digital, in a certain sense, when it comes to buying your home loan, and also at the same time providing a service towards that.
Brilliant. Look, I'm going to take this conversation probably somewhere. Well, I'm doing this a lot, but look, this is a topic I'm quite passionate about, and if I'm out of line, just pull me back in, Annie. But I personally hate any business that is associated with being a lead generation business that sells leads. And based on my experience, and I've seen the best of it and the worst of it, where brokers spend money on purchasing leads but unable to convert it. And I think there's something that you're playing with at Joust, which puts a different lens on that relationship between broker and lead provider. In that, and this is where I think some of the true value sits with a business like your own is not in the fact that you get a customer live comes to you, you engage with them, or you say you get 10 leads, eight of them you can actually make some sort of contact with, 5 of them are somewhat in the market, and maybe 3 might do business with you. Like that whole, have to talk to 10 people to get 2-3 loans. And I understand why some people avoid that. But what you're able to actually provide, and we're talking about building our own digital communities ourselves, is the data that you have on these customers, where you're collecting 14, 15 points of data, and you know exactly who that customer is and what they do. Having your own database of these customers and actually purchasing that data from someone else, that you're then able to nurture those customer relationships, invite them into your own online communities, and then build from that, is that I think that's where the future's heading for brokers. One other side point, which is a trend I'm seeing right now. If you looked at the MPA's, the Advisor Magazine's top 25 brokerages, in that top 10, the top 5 all had acquired another business or merged with another business in the last 12 months, which I thought was very, very telling for, I guess, where the industry is going, where it's similar to what happened in the legal fraternity, where rather than just you have Bob Jones solicitor, all of a sudden they started adding multiple solicitors into the one firm and being these big multi firms where they don't all work together. And if you've ever been in one of their offices, they don't even get along. But they recognize that by pooling resources and collaborating together, they could be more effective at building communities that generated business for all of them. They could share in that. I think brokers, we're heading into the same space where we need to be a little bit smarter about who we play with, and don't become isolated in a world where one person on their own is not going to be able to build an online community or obtain data or compete into that digital space unless they have partners. And I see Joust as like kind of one of those partners that you can, yes, there is an immediate byproduct, which is you may get a customer and settle a loan today. Fantastic. But you also get an opportunity to work with Joust and building your own custom community by knowing exactly where those customers are that you want and engaging with them, where without the likes of a Joust would be very difficult to do so. What's your view on how Joust can help a broker build their own customer database or community?
Yeah. So to your first question, your first point, Andrew, is because of the fact that when I looked at this business a while ago, and because of the background I've come in with, I have knowledge of, I guess, the heartstrings of what a broker wants, right? And at the same time, the words lead gen, I mean, it has come to a point where it's actually a not a great term to use. And at the same time, the thing is that there's certain businesses that fall upon that, and they're great businesses, right? So you can't tarnish that word leads gen, brush with everybody. But at the same time, what Leads Gen hasn't done well in the past is provide a name and number, for example. Someone who's buying a fridge doesn't necessarily want a home loan, for example. And we don't sell telephone books, by the way, nor do we have data scrapes, or do we go out and market and set up call centers in the middle of nowhere and just cold call and just pester customers, for example. So I guess, we wanted to bring that digital lens onto customer acquisition. But at the same time, whilst we build that out and whilst that digital universe is evolving, you want to make sure that also the expectations are intact as well. Right. So the thing here is that when you talk about Leads Gen is good when you've got a good customer and a good broker on the other line. The other thing is what you talk about is that we need to craft ourselves with a greater mindset of not just going, well, I need to buy a stack loaded leads and this is how much I need to make. It's about building a sustainable business, right? So the thing here is that what great brokers do is they build pipeline and they build sustainability. And what does sustainability look like? So what I see in our space is that I'll see some brokers that will go, I'm short of business this month, so I'm going to buy a stack load of leads, right? And it's not necessarily planning out what a marketing campaign should look like and what you're targeting at. You're just asking to open the floodgates of hell to come in with anybody that will want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Whereas with Joust, we believe that it starts with data points, and it starts with conversations around what those data points are. And at the same time, it talks to the fact that even when you do get a great lead through the door, it's not necessary you pick up the phone and go, hey, I heard you want a home loan. It's more along the lines of understanding what the customer's goals and objectives are. And that will then also guide your conversation of where that customer will sit in your sales pipeline, right? So I think that, there's probably three main points around, what brokers should be investing in when it comes to marketing, for example. I always believe the always on approach. So always making the marketing landscape of acquiring customers always on in your business. And therefore, then you can also then plan out and map out your resources and talent as well. So therefore, when you're on the phone with a consumer who only has about a 3-second attention span, you can actually talk to the right reasons why you're calling, right? And then the other thing is that you need to, we as brokers need to understand the digital nature of the customer and also shape and mold what we're targeting as well. So say, for example, the hot environment at the moment is about refi, because we know that interest rates are going to go up. We know that there's going to be a change and shift in mindset in the way that consumers are going to start looking for their home loans online. And we know that they're going to be pretty much facing into the broker community for it, right?
Yeah.
And then therefore, why would you then go, well, I want to talk to everyone in the marketplace? Wouldn't you then target more refi customers because they might be more higher intent customers, and at the same time they have a need that they want to talk to someone about? So I think we as brokers, sometimes we're very good at what we do, which is customer relationship management and writing deals. But I guess leaving the digital acquisition of customers and marketing to partners that will ensure you what kind of volume they can deliver to you. And making that a strong, going back to what I love about the broker space is that the nurturing side of nurturing customers and investing in that customer journey. You might talk to the customer today and they might not want anything from you today, or there might not be a solution for them, but it doesn't mean you write them off, right? It means that you put them into your pipeline, and that's what we do well as brokers, and we nurture those relationships along. I think there's a lot of emphasis that we put on, I guess, digital acquisition, for example. We think that every customer is going to convert. In reality, if you know that if customers are not loyal to